The whistleblower complaint alleging President Trump pressured the Ukrainian president to investigate Joe Biden and his son sent shockwaves through Washington. That'll be felt for weeks to come, if not longer. Now, the ramifications will be felt way beyond the walls of the White House and Congress, since there are also serious national security implications. And that brings us to your weekend presidential brief with CNN national security analyst Samantha Vinograd. This is a segment we bring to you every weekend with the most pressing national security issues the president will face tomorrow. And Sam helped prep the daily presidential briefing for President Obama. So, Sam, part of the whistleblower complaint is that the White House was locking down the transcript of this Ukrainian phone call. What impact does that have on our national security?
Well, Anna, the White House should be mitigating counterintelligence risks, not adding to them. We know that President Trump and his associates were the subject of counterintelligence investigations during the 2016 campaign. We don't know if those probes have ended, but we have new red flags. The whistleblower complaint and subsequent reporting indicate that the White House hid readouts and records on a highly classified server, really restricted the readouts being distributed within the U.S. government, and failed to make readouts of key meetings with Vladimir Putin. Key U.S. officials may have been left in the dark on what the president said, but that didn't erase the contents of those conversations from foreign officials' memory. Particularly if the president said something sensitive, that becomes a manipulation point for foreign governments. It's something they know that U.S. officials don't, that the president may not want to get out. What this means is that the president has become even more of a counterintelligence risk because of these White House practices than he may have been previously.
And in what other ways might this undercut the intelligence community?
It actually has a real operational impact. So typically, after a head of state call or meeting, key officials in the intelligence community get a readout. The director of national intelligence, CIA director, and senior intelligence analysts working on collecting on the country in question. There's a reason behind this. As intelligence analysts are collecting on foreign sources, they may hear those foreign sources discussing a presidential call or discussing a presidential meeting. If they don't know what actually happened, they have no baseline for vetting that intelligence, and they won't know whether to pass it up the chain or to pass it up to policymakers. So the failure to provide a readout to key intelligence community analysts could really impact policymaking.
Let me read you the statement from the Justice Department. The president has not spoken with the Attorney General about having Ukraine investigate anything related to former Vice President Biden or his son. Of course, we know A.G. Barr's name was mentioned a couple times in the transcript from the president's phone call with the Ukrainian president. We know Giuliani was put in touch with the Ukrainians. So does that sound right to you?
It would be highly unusual, Anna. It would be a gross change in practice. The AG was named as a point of contact for follow-up. If he didn't at least get a verbal readout after the call, that would be a big problem. But this is just the latest indication that the president uses a friends and family list rather than official channels to conduct business. We have previous reporting that Jared Kushner left the former Secretary of State in the dark on key meetings. And as you mentioned, now we're hearing that the State Department put Giuliani in touch with the Ukrainians and didn't even alert Attorney General Barr about what was going on. This will probably lead foreign officials to really circumvent official channels, circumvent experts, and just go again to the president's friends and family list. This is not an approach we want other countries to take. The president's conversation with Zelensky and soliciting foreign campaign interference is exactly the kind of thing that we tell other countries not to do. We tell other countries not to rely on personal relationships rather than official channels. We specifically do not want foreign counterparts to practice what President Trump is preaching right now.
In terms of getting to the bottom of exactly what happened, we know Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has been subpoenaed. The Washington Post also reports 5 State Department officials have already been deposed. How's this going to impact the work of the State Department?
I think it'll impact the whole government. I think foreign officials have a really good reason to be wary about communicating with the U.S. government right now. Those communications could end up in media outlets or in front of Congress. They're no longer protected. The State Department is going to be under enormous strain, as is the Department of Justice, just responding to congressional inquiries. You know, Bill Clinton, after he was acquitted of impeachment, apologized to U.S. government personnel for the drain on resources and the burden that the impeachment inquiry placed on them. And finally, I think this will have a chilling effect within the U.S. government itself. If you're working on Ukraine right now or you're working on Russia, you have every reason to think that everything that you do could end up in front of Congress, and that may have a chilling effect on your desire to really show up at work and communicate with your colleagues and with your foreign counterparts.
Sam Vinograd's always interesting to have your take. Thank you for coming on, and Happy Jewish New Year.
Thank you so much.
This guy has done everything possible, much worse than I ever thought, ever, The day after he was elected, I said, well, give him a chance. You never know, you'll see. But he's worse than I ever could have imagined.
I wonder, as an actor, do you ever look at the president and think he's performing, like he's playing an act or something?
In some ways, I think he is, but I think that it's, as I think some of these other pundits on Fox are too, because I can't believe that they would actually buy into this craziness. This guy should not be president, period.
And when you say that, folks on Fox come after you. I remember the Tonys when you got up there and cursed. A lot of criticism of you.
Fuck 'em.
Okay, well, this is cable, so it's not an FCC violation, but it is still a Sunday morning.
Well,
I do wonder why you choose to go that way.
Let me say something.
Why do you choose to go that way?
We are at a moment in our life, in this country, where this guy is like a gangster. He's come along and he's said things, done things we say over and over again. This is terrible. We're in a terrible situation. We're in a terrible situation. And this guy just keeps going on and on and on without being stopped.
We still don't know who the whistleblower is, but the complaint's contents have catapulted Washington into an impeachment inquiry into President Trump. The now declassified document alleging Trump tried to get Ukraine to interfere with the 2020 U.S. election. With all the talk of a whistleblower in Washington in the past few days, what does that exactly mean? It's defined as an employee who brings wrongdoing by an employer or other employees to the attention of a government or law enforcement agency, and who was commonly vested by statute with rights and remedies for retaliation. In this broad category of people, one of the most famous in American history, Mark Felt, better known as Deep Throat. The FBI informant helped take down the Nixon administration, divulging crucial information about Watergate. And in 1971, military analyst Daniel Ellsberg leaked top-secret Department of Defense information about why the U.S. entered the Vietnam War. William Binney and Thomas Drake were NSA officials who informed the Inspector General about government surveillance programs they perceived as invading citizens' privacy by monitoring their internet activity. FBI agent Colleen Rowley flagged then FBI Director Robert Mueller about intelligence failures before the 9/11 attacks. Or Sergeant Joseph Darby, who told military investigators in 2004 about inmate abuse at the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. Not everyone who blew the whistle on the government has been rewarded. For some, it meant the end of their careers, or even worse.
Winter's willful, purposeful disclosure caused exceptionally grave damage to U.S. national security.
Former NSA contractor Reality Winter leaked a secret report about Russian hacking of the 2016 election to a news organization. Now she's serving a sentence of more than 5 years after pleading guilty to leaking that classified information to the media.
Winter will serve a term of incarceration that will give pause to others who are entrusted with our country's sensitive national security information.
The Air Force veteran's mother telling CNN in March she's being painted as evil.
I think that we as Americans deserved that proof. And so how is it that she put us in danger by giving us that proof?
Winter's the first person arrested under the Trump administration using the Espionage Act, established in 1917 during World War I, originally intended to prosecute anyone interfering in U.S. war efforts. So people like spies. In modern times, it's the same law that sent Edward Snowden into exile in Russia. The former intelligence contractor accused of leaking NSA documents revealing a secret global surveillance program.
These leaks have inflamed and sensationalized for ignoble purposes the work that intelligence community does lawfully under strict oversight and compliance.
Earlier this month, Snowden said he'd like to return to the U.S. if he's guaranteed a fair trial.
I'm not asking for a parade. I'm not asking for a pardon. I'm not asking for a pass. What I'm asking for is a fair trial. And this is the bottom line that any American should require.
And in May, the Justice Department indicting WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange of 18 Espionage Act counts, ordering him extradited to the U.S. after spending 7 years at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Assange charged with conspiring to help former intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning, who spent 2 separate terms behind bars in connection with leaking secret Defense Department documents in 2010, published to WikiLeaks' website. President Obama commuted her sentence, and she was released in 2017. Manning telling CNN in May she has no regrets.
I did what I did with the information that I had, the knowledge that I had, and the tools and resources that I had at the time. In 2010, when all this happened, it was a very different, landscape.
And it's important to point out the difference between the whistleblower involved in this Ukraine matter and folks like Julian Assange and Reality Winner who face criminal prosecution. They leaked or helped leak secrets for publication. That's a lot different than this case where the person went through the channels within the government established by law. So who counts as a whistleblower, we're seeing, is somewhat subjective. As James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, put it, one man's leaker is another man's whistleblower.
No, there are legal definitions here.
Absolutely.
And to be clear, the person in this case, as you so correctly note, is protected by the legal definition of whistleblower. Joseph McGuire, the acting DNI, yesterday made clear that this person followed the letter of the law completely.
Right, very, very different.